I feel like journaling has always been a part of my life. As a child, I was always documenting, dreaming, writing something in a diary, but it wasn't until much later that I realized I could integrate journaling into my yoga practice. Whether you already journal or do yoga, or if you're just looking for a place to start, let's explore how you can use reflection and movement in synergy to dive deeper into the self. First, I think it's really important to talk about when to journal. I find personally that the time after meditation or after Shavasana is the most ripe for thoughts and ideas to just flow freely across the page. So that's really where I recommend that you start. Another thing that I find really useful is having everything set up and ready to go. So when you lay out your mat and you get your props, have your little journal beside you, have your pen ready so that you don't have to spend any time getting out of the zone. All your equipment is there in front of you. Next, we need to think about what tools you need. To begin journaling, you don't really need anything. All you need is a pen and a piece of paper, or if you like, you can write digitally as well. But sometimes I find that it can be really useful to have specific tools that you use for a specific purpose. So this could look like getting a specific notebook that you're going to use just for your yoga practice and thoughts that come with your yoga practice. And if you want, you can also have a specific writing instrument that you dedicate to your yoga practice. It's also important to not feel pressured into accumulating all of these things just to start a journaling practice. Like, you definitely can just start with just like sheets of paper and a pen, and that's absolutely fine. Now you have your tools and you know when in your practice you're going to journal, you need to think about how you're going to start integrating writing into your practice. There's kind of a spectrum to this. On one end of the spectrum, you have really just intuitive, do whatever you want kind of writing. That's going to look like maybe just putting a pen to the paper and free writing. Free writing is the practice of writing whatever comes into your mind, be it this practice was so tiring and I have nothing to say, to whatever thoughts or ideas that you had during your practice. With free writing, what works best for me is knowing that I'm free writing for a certain set amount of time. I use a song so that I know that I have about like 3 minutes-ish of free writing once I'm done with my practice, and that avoids kind of snapping myself out of my practice if I were using something a bit more jarring like an alarm, for example. Another thing that I find really useful in documenting what goes on in my yoga practice is to log my state of mind. What I do is I write down how I felt before the practice and how I felt after the practice, and I categorize that into dull, active, or restful. This is something that I learned during my meditation teacher training with Tracy Stanley. This is the journal that I used during that training where I logged my thoughts after I meditated every day. So I have a little rectangle for every day of the week, and then each day I would log the specific meditation that I did. So for example, here I did the painted breath meditation. I would log my feelings before and after. So here I have active to active. And then using the rest of the space, I would write down any thoughts, insights, or just how I felt during the meditation process. So on this day, I was distracted, and then I found stability halfway through, and I was still able to maintain the visualization. And I also have a little icon in the corner here. There's a moon, and then here there's a little sun where I just logged the time of day that I would meditate. I think that the idea of logging your thoughts before and after your practice can be really helpful, because sometimes we realize that we feel the same before and after a practice. Sometimes we feel completely different, and sometimes the change isn't necessarily better or worse. They're just differences in emotions and how we're feeling. I think that this provides you an opportunity to see whether what you're doing in your practice is working for you or not. If maybe you need to change something to be more in alignment with how you're feeling in a particular day, or if stuff is working well and you want to continue doing whatever it was that worked for you. So the next thing you can do, which I feel like is on the opposite end of the spectrum, like completely free, and then this is the other end, is to have something that's really, really structured. This is an excerpt from a worksheet from a workshop that I organized with my friends Irie and Aki. This workshop was meant to explore the intersections between tarot, movement practice, journaling, art, and ritual. This particular part of the practice was we did a movement flow inspired by the Sun card, which I led, and then we moved into these journaling questions that I rewrote. And here you can see, very on theme with Sun, light energy, the question that we invited participants to consider was to choose a positive experience from your life, imagining yourself in the moment and thinking about the feelings and emotions that you experienced. We then invited them to write about this experience in as much detail as possible, paying particular attention to what thoughts, feelings, or emotions were present at that time. So then what we did after that was we invited participants to see if they could find any links between the kind of sun energy, active movement practice and this positive emotion that they were writing about, whether they learned anything, whether there was anything that they wanted to carry into their lives after. So if you want, your personal journaling practice after yoga can look something like that. You can craft a really detailed sequence and routine for yourself, and then make sure you lead yourself into questions that kind of are around the same theme and working with the same kinds of emotions and feelings. If you feel like that's a bit too much work for daily practice, then there is an in-between, kind of between the relaxed and the super prepared, that is using journal prompts. Journal prompts are super easy to find online. They're basically 1 or 2 lines that invite you to think about a certain topic. So you can find them on Instagram, Pinterest, or just even Google, and then you can pick and choose what you feel works best for your practice. If you'd like journal prompts that are specifically catered towards yoga, there is a free download on my website of a workbook that I made called Journey. The workbook has 50 prompts, all intended for you to help deepen your journey in your yoga practice. There are 25 prompts in a section called asana, which help you explore different sensations and feelings in the body when you're doing your movement practice. And then there's another 25 under the title introspection, which help you to just look deeper within and explore things that come up for you outside of the body. So if you want, I'll put the link in the description, and this is completely free, no like newsletter signups on anything, on unapologeticyoga.com. I feel like writing alongside my asana practice is something that has really added a different level to the physical practice, and I am so excited to be inviting you to bring it into your practice as well. Please feel free to let me know in the comments if you try this out and what you feel about it, or also if you already have a journaling practice and you incorporate it in your yoga practice in a different way. Until next time, I'm wishing you gentleness and rest in your yoga practice.